Northern Montana, 1835. As a group of Crow warriors under the command of the great war chief Constant Bird make their way back to their village, every man among them nervously scans the surrounding landscape, looking for any sign of their dreaded enemy, the Blackfoot. Suddenly, one of the warriors cocks his head slightly over his shoulder. At first, he is unsure of what he hears, but then he hears it clearly. The rumbling sound coming from the hooves of approaching horses. His stomach drops. He now looks upon the faces of his fellow Crow warriors and sees that they have heard the sound too. This can mean only one thing. The Blackfoot are coming. Moments later, the Blackfoot appear. A massive war party, hundreds strong, their weapons raised high and their faces twisted in rage. Constant Bird, despite his rank as chief, has no idea whether to order his warriors to flee or to make a stand. But it makes little difference, as the Blackfoot are soon upon them, slaughtering the Crow warriors wholesale with their superior numbers and firepower. A frightful scene of close-quarters combat unfolds, with Constant Bird and his warriors being swarmed upon and unhorsed or simply shot dead. Individual fights unfold, with Crow warriors armed with clubs, knives, and tomahawks fighting to the bitter end, only to be overtaken, killed, and quickly mutilated via scalping and other degradations routine to frontier warfare. The hatred between the Crow and the Blackfoot, even at this time in the early 1830s, is long-standing and incredibly deep. But this is no random attack. This is Blackfoot revenge, plain and simple. Earlier in the day, it was in fact the Crow warriors who had been planning an attack on the Blackfoot's village. They had come upon a sizable encampment in the wee hours of the morning and had hoped to make their own surprise attack. But they had been quickly discovered by Blackfoot lookouts. The Crow had instead decided to feign a desire for truce. Under the direction of Chief Constant Bird, they had approached the village under overtures of peace, stating that they had come to speak under official capacity for the entire Crow nation and to seek an end to hostilities with the Blackfoot. Not wanting to spoil any chance to end this long and costly conflict between the two peoples, the Blackfoot had actually acquiesced to the notion of peace talks. They had invited Constant Bird and his warriors to come into their camp and to smoke a pipe of peace with them in a show of good faith. The Crow had readily obliged, and were soon enjoying puffs of strong tobacco seated next to their avowed enemies. And the Crows soon made their way out of camp under the auspices that they would take the news of this new peace back to their people. But while this seemingly amicable meeting unfolded, one of the Blackfoot had managed to steal a bag belonging to one of the Crow warriors. The Blackfoot had not been entirely fooled by the Crow's ruse and had remained dubious of their longtime enemy's actual intentions. When the Blackfoot examined the contents of the bag, they were both shocked and enraged to find the scalp of a warrior who had gone missing a few days before. This warrior, whose name has been lost to history, had ventured out hunting alone. He did not know that Constant Bird and his band of Crow had been prowling the inner ranges of Blackfoot territory for a few days now, on the hunt for any small parties of Blackfoot. This lone hunter had presented an irresistible target for the Crow, and he had been run down and summarily killed. The warrior who had slain him had proudly taken his trophy in the tradition of plains warfare by harvesting the man's scalp. This was a major victory, as the Crows have suffered greatly in the preceding months and years with consistent losses to the Blackfoot. The legendary mountain man and fur trapper James Beckworth has spent the previous few years living with the Crow, and has remarked in his journals of the consistently hard luck that the Crow warriors have had when they take to the warpath against the Blackfoot. Recounting his time with the Crow during this summer and fall, Beckworth writes that, quote, "We went into winter quarters under the Wind River Mountain and at the mouth of Long Grass Creek. While we were encamped there, numerous small parties of Crow went to war without leave, and in almost every instance were defeated. On some excursions, they were entirely destroyed. Several of the high functionaries inquired of me as to what cause I attributed such disasters. I answered as follows. Warriors, the causes are clear enough. My medicine tells me the causes. Firstly, you robbed my white friends, stealing their horses away and even attempting to take their lives when they were under my protection, and when you knew it grieved my heart to have wronged them. A second cause, you were continually acting contrary to the wishes of our Puash, who went to the spirit land on account of your disobedience. I have also expressed the same wishes to you, telling you to apply yourselves to collecting skins in order that you have the wherewith to purchase the things that you need. These, my orders, are openly disobeyed, and the Great Spirit is very angry with the nation for their thieving and disregard of the orders their head chief has given them." End quote. It might seem strange that Beckworth, a former slave himself, would admonish the Crow for their stealing from his, quote, white friends. But this is a clear example of the truly multicultural life of Beckworth, a longtime veteran of the frontier, and a longtime ally to the Crow, known among them as Bloody Arm for his fighting prowess. But aside from the fact that many of the fur trappers, white and otherwise, were dear friends of Beckworth, the Crow's thievery proved detrimental to the fur trade business, and thus detrimental to Beckworth's profits. Seeking to remedy this, he gave his prescription for the Crows to remedy their seemingly constant problems, quoting again from Beckworth's account. They then inquired what they should do to appease the wrath of the Great Spirit. I answered again, "Warriors, to appease the just anger of the Great Spirit, you must discontinue your war parties and remain peaceably at home for 1 moon. You can then prepare for a great sacrifice and do penance for that time, and let the Great Spirit see that you really repent the evil you have committed. By acting so, you may recover the favor which the Great Spirit has evidently withdrawn from you. By continuing in your obstinate ways, you will assuredly be rubbed out as a nation." End quote. But Beckworth had no specific instructions on exactly how or what to sacrifice. And, most importantly for the Crow, it did not seem to be effective. Thus, it might be said that Constant Bird's decision to lead a band of warriors into Blackfoot territory in search of gore and glory might have been a regrettable misjudgment. The conflict between these two people has roots that are generations old, and driven by an inextricable cycle of vengeance consisting of continuous raiding and counter-raiding. The original cause of their conflict lies in their dispute over the rich hunting grounds of the northern plains. Here, on the vast expanses of prairie, survival was determined by successful buffalo hunts. This drove countless intertribal conflicts, as different tribes battled it out for control of the best hunting territories. In recent years, it has been the Blackfoot, a large, powerful, and warlike tribe who has staked their claim as the preeminent power in what is the modern-day state of Montana as well as southern Alberta, Canada. But the Crow have fought long and hard to stake out their homelands, and despite continual difficulties in their campaigns against the Blackfoot, they have shown no signs of giving in so far. They have time and again proven fearless, relentless, and ruthless in their war against the Blackfoot. But now, Constant Bird and his warriors are caught in a fight for their very lives, the glory they sought proving to be the cause of their demise. The battle unfolds with a manic ferocity, with the Blackfoot's bloodlust seeming to grow with every crow they cut down. Soon, Constant Bird and the 39 other Crow warriors with him lie still in death on the open prairie, their bodies scalped and mutilated. The Blackfoot, assured that they have taken their vengeance, now head back to their village in order to both mourn their fallen comrade and to celebrate their great victory. And, though history does not record the identity of the unfortunate slain Blackfoot man, unless he was a chief, the warriors would be anxious to lay claim to his possessions as well. For it is a custom amongst the Blackfoot that, unless the dead warrior is a chief who was generous during his lifetime, his belongings can be divided up amongst the rest of the tribe. With his immediate family caught in the throes of mourning their loved one, the dead man's friends and fellow warriors would lay claim to his best horses and his best weapons. However, if he was a magnanimous leader, custom dictated a quite different ceremony. The inside of his lodge would be carefully cleaned and arranged, and the dead man dressed in his finest regalia. His family would paint scenes of his greatest deeds on his shield, and gather his finest horses, also decked out in their finest riding tack. The deceased would then be set upright inside of the lodge with his shield and facing the door. Then, the horses would have been gathered up and led one by one to the door of the lodge, where a family member would press a pistol against their head and kill the animal with a single shot. This process would be repeated for each horse, sometimes dozens of animals, with the horses being left where they fell. The man's widow would then cut her hair short, put on tattered old clothes, and smear her hair, face, arms, and clothing with white clay. And, as with many Plains tribes, various forms of self-mutilation might also be carried out. Back at the Crow village, when Constant Bird and his warriors fail to return, a similar scene unfolds, with women and men alike wailing and moaning, with many cutting their hair short. Some even cut the manes and tails of their horses short, in efforts to express the depth of their seemingly inconsolable grief. James Beckworth, who was in the camp as this unfolded, noted that he, quote, became sickened with their constant mourning, which was kept up throughout the whole village, day and night, end quote. Scenes like this, in both the Blackfoot and Crow villages, would unfold countless times in the coming years as what history will come to know as the Blackfoot-Crow Wars continued to intensify. However, both tribes have already begun to fight the hidden enemy that will soon kill more of them than any enemy tribe ever has: the infectious diseases of the encroaching American settlers. Smallpox and cholera have killed many on the northern plains already, even in the early 1830s. And in the succeeding decades, tribes all over the plains will continue to feel the devastating effects of a plague they cannot see and do not understand. For his part, James Beckworth will go on to live with the Crow until 1837. He will be adopted into the tribe, marry a Crow woman, take part in battles, and even reportedly rise to the rank of a war chief. In the 1840s, he will move west to California, where he will discover what is known as Beckworth Pass, a lower, more navigable pass through the Sierra Nevada mountains than had previously been known of. In the 1850s, he will author his autobiography, The Life and Adventures of James P. Beckworth, an invaluable, though at times exaggerated, account of his career on the frontier. He will briefly serve as a scout for the U.S. Army, and even an Indian Affairs agent, before finally retiring and eventually passing away on October 29, 1866 in Denver, Colorado, known as a frontier legend and one of the greatest mountain men of all time. But the countless tales of adventure and hardship from the life of James Beckworth, as well as the innumerable battles that took place during the Blackfoot-Crow War, are, for tonight, other stories for other times. Thank you for joining us on this episode of History at the OK Corral. Be sure to click the like button, share this episode with a friend, and become a subscriber. Also, if you'd like to support our work and gain early access to episodes as well as ad-free viewing and all that good stuff, you can become a member of this channel by clicking on the subscribe button down below. Also, down below, you will find links to our TikTok, our Instagram, and our daily newsletter. Subscribe to any of them or all of them. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time on History at the OK Corral, home of history's greatest shootouts and showdowns.